Hey everybody, this is Tim Shorts of Gothridge Manor, and I decided to give this live stream thing a cast. I give it a shot here, and I'm doing it by myself, so that's always self. All right, let's see here. All right, looks like everything's running right. I don't have my partner in crime, Joe, with me today. He's working, and I have the day off, and I thought I'd kind of do one of these one-offs lives. Um, just to I have to get more practice at this kind of thing, anyways. But I thought I would speak about getting reviews, good and bad. I've had my experience with those. I started publishing back in 2011 through the gaming, and before that, I was doing short fiction work in various magazines. Uh, but it wasn't until I started my first publishing credit for the gaming world when we weren't just sharing stuff on the blogs was Knowledge Illuminates. That was, I think, back in 2011, and it was just a short adventure. That adventure came around because I had written it specifically for a campaign starter for a GURPS campaign, actually. And I wanted to have the first adventure almost be a setup, uh, a home base, a place where the characters would have a place to go already from the get go, and then they'd actually have a resource there. And any of you guys who know about Rob Conley or my campaign, and then the various versions of it through different RPGs, as we use Viz. I think it's also called Weiss uh, I think it's Ars Magica. And so I decided to create it for some OSR. I think I made it for Swords and Wizardry at the time. That was its own complication. I was trying to figure out which system I was going to do it in. But when I released it, it was a very simple um, adventure, and it was kind of linear. I think it had like 7 rooms in it, and I had a small branch in the beginning, but the rest of it was pretty linear. I didn't Jaquays the dungeon at all. Like seems to be the ongoing thing. Even back then, they wanted to. But to me, for the purpose of that dungeon, it didn't make sense to do that. It was somebody's inhabitant at the time. But that was one of the biggest critiques I had. So I released the Knowledge Illuminates, and I had a good mix of good and bad reviews. More, I would say, probably 2 to 1 good, and then like I said, there was a small section or a significant section where they were not positive reviews, but had some critiques about stuff. And I'm just trying to think back now. I got some good reviews. Like some of the people were really enthusiastic about it. They kind of saw my vision, what I was doing, and really liked it for a starter adventure. And so I succeeded. Now there was a lot of people who didn't see it at that. Like I said, they didn't like that it was so linear, and I get that. But that's one of the things with reviews. At least when you get these critiqued reviews, especially the negative ones, and they don't have to be necessarily negative. They're just maybe some aspects of why they didn't like your adventure or your book. Because you're never going to please everyone. It's just not going to happen, and that's fine. Um, and they didn't like it that it was linear. Well, that's what it was supposed to be for my thing. But I understood why they. There was one gentleman at the time. He ran. It was the Night of the Black Banner, I believe, blog, and he really didn't like my adventure. He had several things about it that he didn't like. However, everything that he wrote about, I could tell he took the time and he went through it, and he read it all, and um, so I got on his blog and I said, "Hi, my name's Tim. I'm the one who wrote Knowledge Illuminates. I want to thank you for taking the time that you took to read my adventure. and critique it on here. I'm sorry you didn't like it, but I really hope you give me another chance, and I hope you like the next one. And I left it at that, because he wasn't nasty, he wasn't personal or anything. And then what was interesting, what happened is he was very thankful for me for not taking it personal and not being defensive about it. And we started having this conversation about taking critiques, and he was uh, just very kind afterwards. And then we spoke somewhat frequently through the blogs, and he was very cool about it. And then he continued to get my products, and I think I was giving him review products, because when I hand out a review product, I don't expect someone to give me a good review. I expect them to give me an honest review, and that's all I want in my books. And as long as they give me an honest one and it's based on what was there, then fantastic. That's what I think a good reviewer should do. Even if you like the person, you should be able to say where you see the deficits and have some constructive criticism or reasons why you didn't like it. It's some of the negative reviews that you're going to get and that I've gotten have just been they're just kind of useless. You can tell that they haven't taken the time to read the whole thing. Maybe they just took a part of something and didn't do much else except that small, read that small sample, or just look at like I had one guy do a review off my write-up, and he didn't like my blurb that I put in, and I can't. He called me something. I don't remember what it was. It was kind of funny because it was pretty creative, but those are the kind of things where you can't get upset by those. People are going to have their opinions. They're gonna sometimes, especially when you release something out into the public. Like I said in the blurb for here, when you release something out into the public, what comes next? Opinions, lots and lots of opinions, because there's never a shortage of those, especially in this day and age. And like I said, there are countless ways to express those opinions on more ways on social media than I can keep track of. But if you read all read all the reviews that are negative and kind of let them, get rent free in your head, then you're going to be having difficulty creating things, because you're always going to be worrying about what this person's going to say or what that person's going to say. And while I think it's good to read some reviews, there's some reviews you need to just read them, acknowledge them, forget them. I haven't had a lot of those, but a few that it's like, okay, you could tell there was no constructiveness in it. It just kind of got a little personal. And that says more about that person than it did about my product. Really, whatever was going on had nothing to do with me, and whatnot. Now, let's just say you get a really enthusiastic one. That's fantastic. It's yeah, you want to bring those in. You want to ask people if you can maybe quote them, thank them. Of course, always thank people, good reviews and constructive bad reviews. But I would almost say that with constructive good reviews too, because some people will write reviews and you can tell that they haven't really read it. And while it's nice to have a good review, you want it based on the content, not just maybe off of you. You wanted some, I guess you take for what you want. Get the good press where you can get it. But collect the good ones, and put them next to your product, especially one like quotes. And I used to collect them. I haven't done that for a while now. And put it next to your product and let people see little samples of it. I can't remember why my Hunters in Death I did a few years back. He told me that he really liked it, but he kept on falling asleep and he says, I tried to read it like 3 days straight and I fell asleep. And then whoever the person was, I put the quote up. It's like, it made me fall asleep 3 days straight. So I took one of his reviews or his quotes and put it in there as a joke and to have fun with it and whatnot. Um, and now where's I going with this one? Losing track of my own. So that's why I need bullet points and get ready for prep for this a little bit more. I'm trying to think. Then I had some reviews from like who was it? 10-Foot Pole, Bryce. He's reviewed a lot of my stuff throughout the days, and I can't say he's liked any of it. Most of his reviews were, I can't remember how many stars he gives out. I think it's a 5-star system he has, and I've always averaged a 2, maybe a 3 once in a while. I think, kind of in that medium range there. And I actually got to meet Bryce once a long time ago at a convention, just for a brief moment. I didn't really get to talk to him too much, but the thing with Bryce, even though he has a very definite like philosophy on adventure construction, and he lays it out on his blog, and a lot of the stuff that I write is not to his philosophy, which I understand. He's not going to like, or I didn't do enough on the stuff that I like to convince him that it was better, I guess, or whatnot. But he was always honest with his opinions, and he was always very thorough with his review. Was he harsh? Absolutely, but I don't mind that. That's fine. Like I said, it was constructive. It was honest. It was what he liked, and he may know the way he reviews things. I mean, that's what going in. And he's got a substantial number of people who follow him. Now, if you go in the comments, that's where you end up with a lot of the idiots that are down there. There's no other way to put it. Unfortunately, it's just a bunch of guys, just jackasses, just saying this stupid stuff and just being juvenile, and those you don't read. Bryce's review, yeah, read. Bryce's reviews are always very good, but don't read the comments. Comments are just, like I said, just garbage. Then I can't remember the name of the other guy who's done reviews on almost everything I've had to. He's been very good to me. He's actually rated my products fairly well. He always dings me like a half a star for not having what are the bookmarks in the PDF, so you can just click and get linked to stuff, which I think I know how to do now. I'm not really sure. I didn't even know that was a thing back in the day when I first started. I had no idea what that meant. But even if he loved it to death, I would always get hacked off of half a star for not having bookmarks. But he was always, but he gave good reviews, but his reviews were also based on the material I was there. He would say what he liked, what he didn't like. He commented on the editing, which is something I do well with editing on other people's stuff, and I'm more of a content editor than a line editor. But with my own stuff, I'm blind as a bat. I don't see what I should see. And then some of the stuff that I leave is just like, oh my God. That's why when I do my editing, I try to get Joe or Ivy or both to look at it, or I give it a little bit of time so I can walk away from it and try to get fresh eyes on it. But yeah, so his reviews were always helpful. And then you go to your friends to do reviews, and part of this was brought on because of the review copy situation, or not situation, but topic that's been going around. And I think it's smart. You have to send out review copies. It's good to get buzz about a product. You want to put it in as many people's hands as you possibly can. And you have to do it which best serves you and your product. Some people want, money to review their product. And that's probably because, one, this is how they make their living, and two, they have a significant audience that they can require that money up front. And then you've got folks who'll just, send me a copy and I'll review it. Now, that's cool too. Like when I do my reviews on things, I try to only review the products I like. I try not to do any negative reviews. Or if I do, I try to be very constructive on why I think the adventure falls short. Like the one adventure that Joe and I did about the Forest Oracle, you know, considered one of the worst adventures of all time. And it's got some merit. It definitely has earned its place to be in that conversation. And I think we were trying to go through and try to stay on the, how would we fix it? Okay, so this is part of it that doesn't work. This part of it, how would we fix it? But that's an aside, kind of review. But my I guess my summary of suggestion or how to uh, deal with reviews is, one, stay away from, I would say, the extremes on both sides. I mean, if somebody's glowing with praise, that's good, um, but don't get too locked up on that. And for the very negative ones, don't get too locked up on that. And if you do seem to have reviews that are maybe critiquing something of yours, and it's being brought up more than a few times, that's something you're going to need probably to address. You're going to need to go back, look at that part in your adventure or the way you format it or whatever the critique was. So if there's some sort of consensus on, this part's not good, you'll want to take a look at it. Don't let your ego get involved. Ego should be out the door with this kind of thing. You want to be proud of your stuff, but it's not sacred. It can be changed. It can be made better. Other people can see things maybe that you don't. And I think that's uh, an important aspect to be as a publisher. I mean, it'll make you a better publisher. I mean, once you get to, because I'm a small time publisher, I've only sold things. I mean, I've sold, some of my stuff has sold in the hundreds. Some of my stuff have only sold the dozens, and I don't think I've ever had anything hit, 4 digits, except some of the free stuff I've given out through the years. But on my level, I'm able to do that. When you get up to the bigger levels, like some of the companies or even the small time publishers that can sell um, so massive amounts of numbers, and you can't really go through all that stuff. Hopefully, you have somebody that can help you out with that, but make sure they have a similar philosophy as you do, so they're not like attacking somebody who critiques um, your product in a negative way. Uh, but yeah, just be level. I mean, and especially in these days, you're gonna get those people who are just gonna look to find your button to push it. Try not to buy into it. I mean, sometimes it's going to be extreme when it's going to become personal or uh, just just nasty. And I guess depending on how it's done, you have to take whatever position you need to take or do whatever act you need. But for the most part, I don't feed the trolls. I try to stay as positive I can with gaming. This is my my holy ground, my gaming. I want it to stay positive. I want it to stay a creative area. I may not agree with everything, and that's perfectly fine. I'm full of shit too. There's a lot of stuff that that I don't like, but it doesn't mean I am right. But it's right for me. It's not maybe right for you, and that's always where my opinions are coming from. They're not coming for to maybe influence you on something. I'm just giving you the information on how I felt about it or how I interacted with it, how successful I was with it, and try to identify, where I thought the strengths were and what worked for me, and that. So if you are a publisher out there and you've happened upon this video and you're looking for, looking for a way to do it, just be prepared that you will get probably nailed one time or another with some completely out of the blue, harsh criticism that might not make any sense. But you're also going to get the other side too. You're going to get you're going to get people who really like it. But don't get mad either way, or don't get mad, or if you don't get any reviews, then you need to kind of do the work. I mean, just because you finish your product too, get it in those hands of those reviewers if you can. Get it in the hands of some friends that you trust that'll do an honest review of it. Uh, reach out to folks and be cool about it. If they don't want to do a review, that's perfectly fine. They may be too busy. They might just not have the time. Or, like I said, some of the, like, if you kind of try to shoot for the stars and get one of the big time YouTubers or bloggers or whatever you want to call them, they may require you to fork up a little bit of money. You just have to figure out if that's going to be worth it. I haven't done that, but I wouldn't say I'd never do that, especially if I had a product that I thought was really good and maybe needed a little juice. Then maybe I would reach out to a big time YouTuber. Uh, I mean, I doubt I'd ever do that because I don't have expectations of my sales a lot of times, and I think that's important too when you do reviews. Don't expect everybody to love it, um, and don't let sales frustrate you. I mean, I guess they can, but you have to allow yourself to fail sometimes so you can move on, and do better, learn from it, and look at back. And I'm not even going to say fail as in, like, if you completed an RPG project, I mean, you haven't failed, but maybe if it only got out to 10 people or something like that. And you're frustrated by that and you kind of see it as a failure, then what can you do to improve that? Look, there's so many resources out there. Reach out, ask people, talk to people. I can't tell you how many times I would do that to help me present my stuff in the best way. That way, when the reviews come in, um, I'm better prepared. They're not critiquing something I lack the foresight of, uh, but it's still going to happen. So I think that's about all I got to say about it. I hope if you're watching and you haven't published anything, this helps you. I hope so. If it does, I guess do the thumbs up, subscribe if you would like to, and hang out. Where we on, and then I'll do a little ad for my Monday night game on Monday nights from basically 7 to 10ish, depending on how long we're running. I run a Shadow Dark campaign in my Comer Forest campaign setting that I've run for, I don't know if it's been 10 years, but it's probably got to be close to 10 years now. And we got a cool crew. Got Joe, the lawyer, in it, Ken, and then Flint Fireforge is here on YouTube, also known as Paul. That's his real name. Boring. We'll go with Flint. Flint's got a YouTube. Check it out too. He does a lot of good stuff. And Vance. Vance is a really cool guy. Does a blog. Is doing a lot of good stuff. So if you like content or like hanging out or whatnot, hang out with us on Monday. Please heckle Joe. I always encourage that. If I gave my audience experience points, I would definitely give bonus experience points for heckling Joe. And then the other thing I do have a Patreon called Micro Adventures. Go take a look at it. It's free to join, and everything I put on there is free. So you don't have to fork over any money. It's micro adventures, so I have a lot of short adventures on there. A lot of them are sourced from the Comore Forest, so I kind of try to put my adventures in some sort of context that's in my game, and then I go from there. Uh, and I do NPCs and magic items. I've been doing Shadow Dark magic items, at least one set. So head on over there. I think it's patreon.com Gothridge, where you can just put micro adventures, and I think it'll come up. I'm not sure. I never did it. I just have to figure out the new pay thing for that. I'll probably do a video on the new pay. I don't know what the subscription model that Patreon's been forced to adopt. So, all right, guys, thanks for hanging out. I hope you found this video helpful. And again, if you could, please thumb it up, subscribe, and I hope to catch you later.